Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, Season 4.
So I'm curious, the physical side, you say like that's a problem, but I feel like that's what you want.
Usually when I'm in relationships, it does come easier. It's very like, I'm a very physical touch person, but I feel like with you that's taken like longer to grow that or like be as comfortable.
So aside from the issues with Irina, if we just heard that based on what we've seen in previous iterations of Love is Blind, that is not a good sign. It doesn't eliminate the possibility, but that is associated with at least one person saying no at the altar, right? Or a divorce in the future. So we'll see what happens, I guess. I just can't imagine that this is going to work. And I guess, to be honest, I don't know if I'm super rooting for it to work either. Why would that be? I mean, if it works for the two of them, it works for the two of them. We don't really know the relationship. We don't really know them as individuals. They know each other. So, maybe someone could come across as a bit one way, but in real life, they're different than that.
What do you think that is?
I don't know. And like, you're my fiance or someone that I'm hopefully getting married to.
It is one of the risks of this show is you have no ability to gauge that unnamed quality of chemistry that you have with someone in person. You could be visually attracted, so wow, yeah, that's an attractive person, but yeah, I don't feel it. That's something that people will say a lot in dating relationships. You might talk on the phone, on Tinder or something, and then you meet up in person and immediately you're just like, nope. Obviously there's repulsion, like, oh my God, I'm repulsed by this person for one reason or another. But even if you're not, sometimes you just don't feel it. And I think that happens a lot, right? Where you try to make it work because it's like, oh my God, this person has all the other boxes checked, but I'm not compelled. And then you might find that someone who only checks half of your boxes, you are super compelled because there's this unnamed box, indescribable box to be checked. That is your body and mind and soul. Like you just have no idea who you're going to click with emotionally. And there are theories about this, about pheromones and other kinds of factors that play into it. But our science is such that we just don't know. There are things that seem to maybe be related, like pheromones or symmetry of a face or familiarity with certain voices, cultures, this kind of thing. But it only accounts for a small percentage of the variability in whether or not someone is attracted to someone. So we just don't know. It's maybe 100 years from now, we'll be able to nail that down to some extent. It'd be hard to imagine what that would be. But so it sounds like she doesn't have it for him.
If you were like, Irina, when you touch me or hug me or hold my hand, I get uncomfortable. Like, I would be like, what the? I would like, I don't know if I'd be able to be with you, to be completely honest.
Yeah, a rare moment of empathy. I mean, I'm being mean. At least a rare moment of exhibited empathy. Maybe she has a lot of empathy off camera or she's having it internally, she doesn't exhibit it. But that is empathy. She is like telling him the honest truth, and I think that is a positive of her, is that she will wear her feelings on her sleeve or heart on her sleeve, and she's brutally honest, and that could be very refreshing. That could be very, I don't know, could make him feel really safe with her. It's like, well, if she's an open book, she says what's on her mind. And so there's that. And so she says, I'm not feeling it with you. She's not saying it that far, but something like that. And then she, because that would be the human thing to do, the mature thing to do, is to extend yourself occasionally into the other person as to how they might be receiving it. You take a guess, you mentalize, you imagine that this other person has feelings and thoughts and biases, and you enter their world. You try to, and she did, and she says, wow, if I were you, I'd be like, we're done. I think she could have gone further and said, if I were you, I'd be really hurt by that or concerned about that, more specific. But, she's saying in that direction, so, it's good.
Yeah. When we were in the pods, you were very, very affectionate. And since we've gotten into the real world, I've noticed that you have been hesitant to express that affection. In fact,
yeah, that could be because of the chemistry thing. It also could be because she's not even really physically or visually attracted to him. We don't know. There's another possibility that because of whatever she's been through in life, I don't know, but total speculation, she's been through some stuff in life that has made her worried about attachments and closeness and other people in general. And when she's in the pods, there's a freedom because there's not much at stake and you're isolated, and there's already there's a distance that's included in the mode, right? But when you're actually in person with someone, you have the full ability to, not physically necessarily, but emotionally 3D really become close with someone that could feel threatening to her. And she could, as a result, have an almost impossible time overcoming that barrier. But I don't know what it is.
In fact, more often you kind of push me away with jokes.
Maybe because I didn't see you.
Okay, so that's what I was talking about earlier, which is that she does that seemingly. We've seen little snippets of it. Presumably he's seen 100 times more of that. And so he just put it into words. We did see that with Danielle and Shane, remember, with those two in season 2, where in the beginning she would joke around a lot in a very similar way that she did. Now, Danielle didn't exhibit all that other behavior, at least on camera. I think some people suspect, or at least Shane, I think, has accused Danielle. Was that her name? Danielle? No, Natalie. Natalie and Shane. I'm sure some of you are like, it's not Danielle. Who's Danielle? So it was Danielle and Nick. Okay, so erase everything I said. With Natalie and Shane, remember, Shane would say, you always make jokes and you always will make fun of me in this way that I think is trying to make a joke or trying to diffuse a nervous situation for you, but it hurts my feelings. So he's in that direction. He's saying that. So let's see how she responds to that.
You have been hesitant to express that affection. In fact, more often you kind of push me away with jokes.
Maybe because I didn't see you and it was your voice that I was connecting to. Now it's a face and a body.
One of the reasons that I picked you.
Okay, that could be. That's what I was saying. It's like, and she's just saying that. If I were birding on her shoulder, I would say, I wouldn't say that unless you're sure of that, because it could also be something else. It could be a psychological barrier that you have with just being close to anybody. Not to say that you don't have the right to be unattracted to someone or not have chemistry with someone, but you might want to consider that, or at least include that in your possibilities verbally to him, because it could be very hurtful to him. Now, maybe that's what she's going for. Maybe she's like, we should just end this here. And she's just kind of laying it out there and saying, maybe that's literally what she's doing. She's like, look, I don't know if this is going to work, and I'm just going to tell you what's going on with me, and you can make the call, because here's the situation. And then she even said earlier, it's like, if I were you, I'd leave. So it's possible that she's doing that because she just doesn't feel it with him, and she never will. It's also possible that because of her traumas, which I don't even know exist, she's resisting getting close because she is afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of being hurt. And it's easier to not get involved in a vulnerable way than to get vulnerable and be hurt.
You is...
I was super affectionate.
Yeah, I think you're in your head. I think you're thinking about what's going to happen when we get to the altar, and you are a little bit afraid of it. So
wow, Zack nailed it again, like in the pods, because she seems to be resonating with it, right? That was basically what I was saying. It's in that vein, and he lays it out there, and she's like, yeah, it could be. So maybe this is a match made in heaven. He can really help her to come out of her shell and to be vulnerable, because I'm suspecting that underneath all that we see with Irina is a very needy, desperate, hurt little girl who wants to be taken care of, who wants to be loved, who wants to be secure, but just doesn't believe it'll ever happen.
So I think you've already kind of, I feel like you've already kind of made up
my mind about it.
Yeah,
but
I feel like that's why you're not as affectionate, because you've already decided in your head, like, oh, it's not gonna work.
I would be going home right now if I felt that way.
I'm just saying, like,
I realize though, like, that I am scared. Like, I am scared of being affectionate. Like.
Okay, self-awareness, and she's listening and responding. She's absorbing. She's not defensive about it. It is vulnerable what he's introducing, and paradoxically, that's the thing she's avoiding. But maybe if he appeals to her conscious mind, she can consider it and verbalize it and get to know it. Self-awareness could absolutely help. And so this is going way better than I thought it would. even on any show, let alone with Irina. So he lays it out there in a very concise way, non-judgmental, non-defensive way, very healthy way of describing it to her. She's receptive. She agrees. She elaborates on it. What more could you ask for? I'm guessing some of you would love to have your partner react like Irina did, especially if you watch this YouTube channel without your partner. I know a lot of you. Shout out to you partners that are watching as we speak, because I don't know. I just imagine that, one, it's just cute to imagine the two of you cuddling up next to each other and watching, but also the prospect of learning concepts related to attachment and vulnerability and conflict management and love that you can immediately apply it to each other. It's really gratifying to me that y'all would do that. So if you watch by yourself though, and your partner doesn't, then there's a chance that you might know a lot more than your partner does about vulnerability and about healthy self-awareness. And you might see stuff in your partner and you might point it out. Now, of course, you don't want to be alienating or insulting or a know-it-all, but you might at least have experimented with, hey, there's this thing called attachment styles, and sometimes I think, and of course, couple therapy is the answer, not using YouTube as a replacement for that, of course. And you might have done that and experienced pushback. I've gotten emails from some of y'all about that. And you would have loved your partner to react the way I read it. So, it's good that she's reacting this way now.
I would be going home right now if I felt that way.
I'm just saying,
maybe,
yeah.
I realize though, that I am scared, I am scared of being affectionate. Every time, even you say oh, you're so beautiful, and you look at me, instead of being oh, baby, I'll be ah! And I'll just run away.
Yeah, that's the way it looked to me. Good for her that she can see it. That's great. That is really good. Natalie and Shane, Natalie had a harder time adjusting to that idea. She had a harder time accepting it. Maybe Irina has a chance.
That's actually what you do.
Maybe I'm insecure about how my appearance in a way, or I don't know. I don't think you're being honest or something, so it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Mind blown. I mean, for anyone on this show to say something like that, I have chills. Maybe she'll ruin it, as often happens with anyone on the show. Whenever I get excited, I'm like Darcy, I'll get all oh my God, and then, but wow, why would I want to ruin it with that prediction? She said what I am thinking and yammering about so often. Maybe I'm insecure, and she even words it that way. It's that healthy way. It's I don't know, maybe I'm insecure. You're asking questions, you don't know. She's maybe I'm insecure, and I feel like when you're complimenting me, I feel like it just can't be real. Now, if she went deeper, I'm guessing she would say, because of my traumas, I don't think I deserve it. I don't think it could ever happen. No one's ever unconditionally loved me before, particularly men or whatever she would say. So I just can't believe it. There's a part of me that believes it. There's another part of me that just there's no way that he is being honest. How could he possibly be honest? Now, another element to this is that there's a way that the couples will romance with each other on this honeymoon that does feel like if I were the recipient of him or other people in their communication, it would kind of make me feel uncomfortable too. There's a sort of unbridled, unquestioned, just love and compliments and optimism that I would be put off by. I'd be like, well, can you be more of a? It comes across like it's thing you're supposed to say in those situations, and I'm not there. But so there is some off-puttingness to it, I think, that I think is rational, at least if I were in her shoes. But hallelujah. Let's rewind that. Even
you say oh, you're so beautiful, and you look at me, instead of being oh, baby, I'll be ah! And I'll just run away.
That's actually what you do.
Maybe I'm insecure about how my appearance in a way, or I don't know. I don't think you're being honest or something, so it makes me feel uncomfortable. If there's anyone I could trust with my feelings, it'd be you.
Maybe this will really give him a chance. We don't see this kind of behavior, especially from the individuals on. I mean, imagine if Zenib had said something like this, right? That if she were able to level with Cole in this way and just be like, yeah, you know, sometimes I just get completely terrified that you're going to reject me and abandon me, and I just preemptively get angry at you. And I hear these little words, like when you said you had a good night, and I said we had a great night, and you said good. It just triggered something in me, and I get insecure, and then I get upset, and then I push you away. Like, imagine if Zenib had said something like that. Now, maybe she's capable of that, but Irina is a conundrum. Because even the healthy people on these shows have a hard time, I think, admitting what she just admitted. So I'm not going to, it doesn't erase everything that's happened, but it is redeeming in my book.
You had to choose between, yeah, of course, because you were talking to me and Bliss. And
but you don't like that power dynamic, is what I'm saying. And I think that the power dynamic in your relationship is really important to you.
Yeah,
I think you like feeling like you have control.
I don't feel like I don't have control with you at all.
I know.
Okay, so now it's going to. I wouldn't say it was control that she was exhibiting, because at least that's not the word I would use. She was threatened, as anyone would be, and she reacted in a vicious way, according to their words. Everyone did it. You could argue Bliss had difficulty with that lack of control. It's threatening. You fall in love with someone, you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, and they're on the fence about being with you, and they might want to be with someone else. You know, it's threatening. It's a real threat. It's not something that you should come out swinging about, but it's a real threat to the rest of your life, to the love of your life. There's someone else in the mix. So she was feeling that feeling, but that's not lack. I feel like a lot of times people will frame things in a lack of control, as if we just love to be in control all the time. And what I will say is that even for controlling abusive people, the typical motivator for control or vying for control or domineering behavior towards another person to gain control is because they're terrified. That's why people want control. Controlling people don't want to control literally everything. It's not control that they're going for. They're trying to get to safety. And we're all like this. Everyone is controlling. You know, someone comes up to you on the bus and starts shaking you, and you don't know them, and you try to move away from them, and you might push them away. You wouldn't call that person controlling, right? It's like, oh, you're so controlling. You're always trying to control your space and your body. It's like, it's because you're scared or you're annoyed or it's bothersome, right? You wouldn't say that someone that goes to the grocery store to stock up on, I don't know, whatever you're going to stock up on because you're worried you're going to run out, whatever. You're not saying, oh, you're so controlling. You say, you know, it's based on fear. So I think that the way I would conceptualize it is that she's terrified. But again, most people would be terrified in a situation like that. I don't think there's anything particular about her. Now, I think what he's trying to get at is that she gets vicious. And I think that's what he's trying to introduce is, I think sometimes when you feel lack of control, lack of safety, lack of security, you get vicious.
That's my point.
Why do you feel like you're I know that's like a really strong word to say, but I feel like you're just like trying to find me find me as I'm the issue, or I'm making the issue.
I'm not.
So me choosing not to be affectionate with you is me being in control.
It's a theory.
But then I don't have the fun because I like being affectionate.
Well,
interesting. That wasn't how I was interpreting, but she is rephrasing what he's saying, and he is agreeing with that. Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's what I would conceptualize it as, and she's confirming that doesn't resonate with her, and she's proven that she's able to admit when something is accurate for her. He's framing it as she's withholding affection because she wants control. Yeah, it's possible, but that wouldn't be very common, particularly given everything that we've seen. But you know, it's a theory he threw out there. Hopefully he can rescind it and say, oh, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. I think if I were birding on his shoulder, put that on a t-shirt, I keep saying that. For him, I would say, okay, it sounds like that didn't resonate with her, so state that you're just throwing it out there and you don't know her more than she knows herself. And then 2, go back to where you're coming from, because I think where he's coming from is that he feels hurt and he wants to have that affection back. He wants to have her love back. He doesn't feel like she loves him anymore the way she did in the pods. And he's sad about that and he misses that. Just say that.
You haven't been very affectionate.
I know, and I feel like maybe that hurts you, so that's why you're saying all these things.
No, I'm just trying to know what's going on in your mind.
Yeah. She's smart. She has an ability to see that stuff. And so she, in a very appropriate way, says, I think you're just hurt. So I think that's why you're calling me controlling. And then he says, no. And that's, it's fine. That's normal that people will do that. I would say 99% of people will initially reject things like that. And as a therapist, I have to say, it can get frustrating. I will lay out things that I think are just completely normal interpretations of people's emotional lives, and people will be like, "Oh no, I'm just curious." He just did a classic thing. Let's rewind that because it is notable.
Find me as I'm the issue, or I'm making the issue.
I'm not.
So me choosing not to be affectionate with you is me being in control.
It's a theory.
But then I don't have the fun of, because I like being affectionate.
Well, you haven't been very affectionate.
I know, and I feel like maybe that hurts you, so that's why you're saying all these things.
No, I'm just trying to know what's going on in your mind.
Yeah, and it's also a very male thing. It's involved in toxic masculinity, meaning that the denial of vulnerability, the denial of hurt and pain and worry, the longing that all humans have, regardless of gender, for closeness and security and love, and the hurt that we will feel when we're rejected. He's being rejected. She expressed affection and love in the pods, and now she's not. That's rejecting. That is very hurtful. That makes him sad. And she laid it out she even softened it with a little bit of a laugh, I think she was trying to soften it a little bit. And he immediately just says, no, I'm just curious. And a lot of people, regardless of gender, but men are socialized this way, they will frame it as that. And I'll see it in therapy all the time. It's like, no, I just want to know what's happening. And okay, that's how it feels consciously, but why are you so interested in this topic? Go deeper. What's the motivation? Because if you can know that, then at the very least you'll know what's going on with you, and two, you can communicate it. And I think she's right. If I were there, I'd be, Zack, it's human that you would be hurt that she is not being affectionate anymore. That's pretty devastating. You want to marry her and spend the rest of your life with her. You're in love with her. And she's now not having affection for you. And you proposed a theory as to why that's happening, and it doesn't resonate. Some of your theory actually totally resonated with her, and you're really good at that. But, you're not going to get it right every time. And so that controlling bit didn't resonate with her. We can trust her at this point. And then she says, I think you're just hurt, and be human. And she's willing to admit when you conceptualize her accurately, maybe you could think about it. I don't know. Maybe she is wrong, but it'd be weird if she were wrong. It would be very strange if you weren't hurt or sad that she no longer has affection for you. The love of your life, the person that you plan on marrying and spend the rest of your life with, no longer has affection for you. It would be extremely weird if you weren't hurt by that.
Affectionate.
Well, you haven't been very affectionate.
I know, and I feel like maybe that hurts you, so that's why you're saying all these things.
No, I'm just trying to know what's going on in your mind. Yeah.
So who wants control? Who's the person that is wanting to have control over the situation? Yeah, it's fine. I mean, most of this conversation was superior to not only Love is Blind, but all the shows we watched. So kudos to them for having a pretty good conversation around this. I mean, how many times am I watching the show and I'm speculating, I'm like, I don't think this person is feeling it anymore, but they don't say it, but she did. She's like, basically, I'm not feeling it anymore, and I don't know what's going on.
What?
How did I get here? I'm falling apart.
Affectionate with Ralph.
I will say they're having a lot of eye contact, and she's able to withstand it, different than before. Maybe she's feeling more secure, more safe. She did say that. She said, if there was someone I could trust with my emotions, it'd be you. And so with that closeness, that amount of intimacy, of direct eye contact, and I will actually say she has a lot of eye contact. She actually does exhibit a lot of eye contact, that she's able to tolerate it now and not make a silly joke. Or at least, what did she say?
Affectionate with Ralph.
I'm affectionate with Ralph. I mean, I guess that is a joke, but You could argue that that's a transitional object. Ironically, I think this is a transitional object for him. He talked about how when he went through all the chaos of his life, moving around, he said every few months he was moving around, and the one constant in his life was this stuffed animal, and he gave it to her in the pods as a symbol of his commitment and love to her. And for him to have something to hold was, made him feel safe, made him feel good, and made him feel perhaps like he was standing on solid ground, because at least this one thing is real and stable. And for her, she, according to their theory and mine, is that because of her relational trauma, I mean, they're not saying this, but because of her insecurities, as she put it, she's worried about being affectionate and worried about extending herself, because in the pods it was less vulnerable. And she is now using Ralph as a transitional object to him.
Clear.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.